Alright, G, we have a treat especial just fresh off the boat from our friends at DHL to Antrim, Northern Ireland. We have one of these things, an impact thing. But first, a disclaimer. The Dave Style channel does not recommend the use of any information contained in this video or catchphrases for use for tattooing onto your eyelids. Thank you very much for your understanding. Well, for all the Milwaukee fanboys out there, and if your colour is red, then, well, you might be interested in this thing. This is the third acquisition for my garage here from this Milwaukee company, and this one came from North America. So I don't know where you can get these in the UK yet or not, and yeah, it came from Alberta, Canada. So what does lie within, you may ask? It's my Christ, look at this. It says that thing. Let's get a wee look at this here. Yeah, it's a brave size there. All right. Hang on to a seat. We got a measuring stick in the shot. What is that? 2 inches, 50 odd mil. And then the anvil is a 1/2 inch version. And I'll maybe go on to tell you why I've chosen the 1/2 inch in this. You know, we'll talk a wee bit about torque in this video. This is not just, you know, a review of these shiny red tools. We're going to talk a wee bit about torque and why torque matters and why I've went for different anvil sizes in these tools. So this is a follow-on from our previous two videos that we did. The stubby, the wee 3/8 stubby that we got, and the 3/8 ratchet. This is not a ratchet. This is a right-angled impact wrench. This doesn't ratchet at all. So without further ado, we will stick a battery up its chuff and see if it chooches. And we'll have those 4 thingamajiggers on there, and a few lights going on there, and a far better trigger than the one old paddle thing that's on the ratchet. Get a ratchet. That's right. So there we go. So this long reach ratchet has this old paddle jobby, which I didn't really fancy because it's just held in with that roll pin there, and I thought that was a bit flimsy on it, you know. So this has a proper button, a proper trigger, and the forward and reverse is there. So yeah, so let me see, where's that stubby? So if we compare the stubby to this head here, yeah, so what this basically is, you know, they've got this bit here, the impact part, and this bit here, then they've made that vertical instead of across the way, you know, horizontal like that. So yeah, that will get into spots where that one won't, for sure, and that's the idea. It won't get in everywhere, like, because that's 2 inches, and then you have a socket on it, you know. So, but yeah, definitely. There's the space you're gonna gain there, you know, with this monster of a thing. And to be quite honest with you, it's not as it looks like. That's going to be really heavy. It's not that heavy at all. It's a wee bit, you know. You might think that is a huge weight. If you hold it right at the end, like I'm holding it now, it's actually lighter than nothing. It's actually better to hold than this monstrosity, which I didn't really fancy. And it's the size of head and that's just a ratchet, you know. So that's just a ratchet, and we discussed in the previous video what's that one there, allegedly go up to 75 newton meters of torque. And this one here on this box is in some pre-1971 language. 220 foot pounds? Am I reading that right? Foot pounds? Surely that should be pounds feet. Foot pounds is a unit of energy or work in joules. I wonder, is that a mistake? I don't know. So we'll have to assume that's pounds feet. Pounds force. So torque is force by distance, which in our usual language it's newton meters. So you wouldn't catch me running around saying that was 75 meters newton. That wouldn't make much sense. But without getting hung up on that too much, that is 300 newton meters. So this is an impact wrench, and it's just out. And there's a couple of vids on the YouTube that I happen to have a wee quick search that have come out only the last couple of days on this, and they're all in the US. I don't know whether this is in the UK yet or not. This came from North America, as I said, with international delivery. So that's how it came. So this is a United States version, mostly actually Canada. And here's the bump here. There's a wee bit of bump, and we can see this foreign language again. This pre-1971 0F to 125F. I have no idea what that means. RPM 0 to 3000, and impacts per minute is 3600. So it's not bad. It's not gonna beat any world records by any means, but it's really 300 newton meters if that's correct, and it's not over spec. And notice in these Milwaukee tools, and I mentioned it before, that they just give the one rating, and a lot of other tools they give a reverse torque or a nut busting torque, so they would give two specifications, and you can actually bias the tool to improve the torque on in reverse. They do that especially in pneumatic tools, and that's where they have the air going into the main motor. It would be off center. So there would be a bigger chamber then on the reverse side. Whenever it's selected for reverse, there's more air getting in and gives you more power. So it actually says that here, which is very true. But I was trying to find out, was that reverse torque, or what was it? So it's just one torque spec again, but it says here the torque required to loosen the fastener averages 75 to 80% of the tightening torque, depending on the condition of the contacting surface. So assuming that you haven't got friction taking place, i.e. the nuts all rusty, the threads are damaged up and they're not great, and the nut hasn't sort of half welded itself on. Under normal circumstances, a nut is easier to take off than it is. You require less torque to take it off than you would do tighten it. So you see a lot of reviews on the YouTube, and I'm not going to do that here, where people would get a torque wrench and they would tighten a bolt up. They would tighten this nut up to say 100 newton meters, and then they see if this thing can take it off, and then they say, oh, there you go, it can take off 100 newton meters. Well, you probably only need like 80 newton meters to take a 100 newton meter tighten nut off, and I'll maybe do a wee quick demo on that. And I've got my friend from Canada, Uncle Bumble, is going to help us explain the difference between an impact and a non-impact. How can you get 300 newton meters out of that, yet that is only 75? And it's because of harmonics. And a whole lot of other things going on too, like the weight of this anvil, the weight of the socket. So you can get mass sockets, which basically means it's a thick wall socket, and that will help, taking things off. We all know that if you put an extension bar onto a socket. So you put an extension bar, it basically takes all the impact away, because you're introducing a shock absorber, because it can move inside the socket, you know. And then you lose a bit as well on the socket on the nut, where it's able to move about on the nut, so it's not actually on the nut. So there's massive losses in the if you introduce extension bars and wobble joints and stuff like that. You nearly dump it all out, so there's no impact left. So how can you get 300 newton meters out of a wee thing that size? Well, it's all about bang. If you hit something with a hammer, for a split second, you get a massive force, so much so it lifted all that through the vibration of the table there. And a bit of a rough guide is that if you just hit that very softly, it doesn't make as not much noise. But if you really thump it, you know, you're getting more of an impact, and it's noisier. So that being said, and it's not very scientific, of course, but we'll see how noisy this is. And what number's that on? It's not on any number. Number 3, right? Okay. I'll put it onto there. I'll hold that. It's brave rattle of that. So let me see. We'll try a stubby. We'll change that over. Let's see how loud this is. I think that's louder, although that has a higher rating. Now, when I did a wee comparison video of the value for money of this stubby against the Metabo, a lot of people, or a few people, commented, the half-inch one is more powerful than this 3/8. And yes, that would be true, because there's a 19mm 3/8 drive socket impact, and there's a 19mm half-inch. I can feel in my hand here that is far heavier than that. That is a thinner wall and all that there. It's a smaller socket. You also have a smaller anvil here. So if you increase the mass on your anvil, you know, and you have a heavier socket, that will increase the harmonics that's going on in the impact, and you'll discover then that has more power. I bought this for light duty. I deliberately bought the 3/8, and that's why I did not buy the 3/8 in this. I bought the half-inch because I want to get as most power out of this as I want, or as I can, because this is an impact, and it's for tight spots where I can't get these sort of tools in, you know, the traditional sort of pistol grip style, and it's more this style. But first impressions, I compare it to this ratchet, this electric ratchet thing. It's actually lighter, and that's gonna take nuts off. Whereas, you know, you have to break a nut off with that in the traditional ratchet sense, and then that's just a nut spinner, you know. There's a couple of extra features on this, which I actually do like. Now, there we go. I'm maybe being sworn over to the red team here a wee bit, that this additional number 4 thing here, I get you into focus. You're getting better at that, but so let me see. Do you have to do the trigger? You can't read that. 2, 3, 4. Right. Well, what that will do, as far as I read anyway, in the instructions are, put the right socket on. What that apparently will do, hold on, I got another hand in. This is brand new, bit tight on the friction ring, or hog ring we call them, is this mode will loosen if you're in loosen in reverse. So it'll loosen, and then whenever it breaks free, so whenever the required torque depletes, then it'll run the nut off slower. So a thing I find in the air tools is you have full power whenever you break the nut free, it just zips it out. Then you're nearly sort of out of control for that wee point in time. So this might be a wee bit useful in that regard. And similarly, if you put it in forwards, then it'll run the nut in just to the nut stops basically, and so it's just a nut spinner then in that mode, which that one there does as well. But I thought that was, well, not a massive gain to be any means. It's a bit of a gimmick, I think. Might be useful. I might end up using that feature because you've no idea what torque you're going to put on it. When you're fastening for small fasteners, you might just want to run them in and that's it. And then you just tweak it up with your feel or a torque wrench. You're not going to use torque wrenches on battery bolts and things like that. I don't anyway. I don't. Nobody in their right mind would. But anyway, yeah. So okay, well, we'll do the usual test then. We'll try it out. Wheel nuts. Just looking at this instruction book again. Service United States 1-800 sawdust. Right. Is that a phone number or what's the crack going on there? And Service Canada. And then there's a bit of warranty information. I think I'll be. This is a US tool here, so I'm maybe screwed on warranty here, maybe a wee bit. But yeah, there's that info there. Bolt removal in reverse. I chance that right. Bolt removal in reverse. The tool runs at full ripums and ipums until the nut breaks free from the joint. Then the tool slows to reduced ripum for better control in removing the nut. I actually like that. I actually do think that is a good idea. So what's that? Start, stop, control, and speed. Fuel gauge. That's battery life. So you can get that in a 3/8 and a half-inch hog ring, and then you can get it in a half-inch pin detent. Doubt whether anybody will get that. But who's central lock? So it doesn't really tell you much this here because it goes on to French. Ne pas fausser l'autre électrique, So there we go. And we're in centigrade. We're finally in centigrade now. Yes, I'll maybe just read that one instead. Okay, so here's my cards in the garage at the minute, and we haven't had these nuts off or anything. I don't even know what torque they're at. We're going to use this bolt loosening mode here, the number 4, and see if this is going to break free. I've just noticed the many lights is that the battery's down a wee bit already. That was pretty charged, and I haven't really been mucking about with this too much. But okay, I'll turn the sound down a bit for the headphone users. Well, that wasn't much good for that. Right, okay, we'll have to hoof it up then. We'll just stick it number 3 and see what happens. Well, I got it. It took a wee while, but that was at number 3, so I doubt where I would do it in any other mode. But that's just a wheel nut. It's, this isn't really designed for take wheel nuts off. Wheel nuts you're going to use an ordinary impact. They're something a bit more powerful. So I'm sort of stressing it here. It's not really what it's for, in fairness, So to find out more why an impact, produces far more torque than this thing, which is just a ratchet. So you're relying on the torque here is coming out of your arm, your elbow, to break a nut loose, and that's just a nut spinner. Whereas this is absolutely not a ratchet. You're looking for the tool to bust the nut for you, or take the nut off for you, or to assist in that. Now it's not going to break any world records by any means. It's not going to maybe take off a lot of suspension stuff. It might do. but it's, if you can get a bigger impact in or whatever, you know that'll work right away. I predominantly use air for rusty, larger bolts, and I use that wee compact air Facom that I have. But this here, I can see this being useful. To me, this is a better buy than that ratchet there. That's just a lazy man's tool. That's just a nut spinner. That's when you just couldn't be arsed ratcheting the thing out yourself, Whereas this here is going to get nuts off for you that, you couldn't get off. Like, say like a water pump pulley or something like that. It's actually going to break stuff free, this here. If you can get it in, of course. So, to find out a wee bit more about impact, here's my Uncle Bumble.
But does it output real torque? It doesn't output real torque. It outputs torque impulses. That is the difference between a real torque wrench, because when you pull on this system and tighten everything down, you are automatically taking all the slop and all the springiness out. So we get exactly the reading that we're expecting. But when we're using the impact, we are relying on the harmonics and the impact force to get that nut tightened up. Here's the difference. Here's the analogy. You take a hammer. I hit something that just gave me 5 tons. That was 5 tons for a split fucking second. Okay? So if you take a hammer and you try and compress a spring, what happens? Nothing happens. It just springs. But if you take, and that's 5 tons worth of force. But if you take a press that's 5 tons and you press it constantly, it takes up all the springiness in the system, you compress the spring. That's the difference between a torque wrench properly torquing something and impacting it off.
Arduino versus Evil there. So just do a wee quick demo of the theory that loosening is easier than tightening. So if you imagine the threads, the threads are in a helix, they're going that way. So when you turn this bolt, or when you turn this nut, it's going to try to come off. It wants to come off. Whereas if you torque that down so it can't go any further, it's going to hit a stop. It's going to hit a wall, and then you're applying a lot more force then, to clamp that down. So you're actually applying a clamping load, and the way we sort of have to measure that is a torque value. But what you're really wanting to do in any fastener is clamping that to that. It's clamping 2 pieces together. So this spiral that's going on in the threads is easier to take off, provided the threads are okay and there's no friction going on that is going to prevent that from happening. So if these threads are damaged or if they're all rusted up or whatever, you need more force applied to do that turn and let it come off. So that's why we're hitting it with hammers and impact tools, and that's where that advantage comes from. So that's why I'm gearing more myself towards this thing rather than that. Right, so with that bolt there in the vase, that's pretty good, Nick. I turn it with my hand there. Okie doke. And we're gonna set this torque wrench to, that is 100.0 Newton meters, and it's set at P for peak, so that'll store the peak value. Now this torque wrench, as with most torque wrenches, will work in both directions. So what we're going to see is we're going to tighten this to 100, and then we're going to see, what is the torque that this wrench is going to show that whenever this breaks away, this good condition bolt breaks away. So it's just to give you an idea of why breakaway torque is higher. Now, I did say earlier on, we just need to remember that some tools are geared for, not gears as in, cogwheels, but they're designed with a bias so that there's more force in reverse. So these Milwaukee tools, however, that doesn't appear to be the case, because they only ever say one specification. And these 3 tools that I have purchased here, they all give just the 1 torque value there. So there's no nut busting. Well, it is a nut busting torque, but it's the same for. There's no double value, so which some of my other tools specs do give. And yeah, okay. So anyway, without further more waffle, we will give this a go here. And let me see, get it right. Okay, right, here we go. You ready? Okay, here we are. Right, so you heard that beeping, and that is 107.3 NMs, Newton meters. Okay, and we will go in reverse, get you back into focus, and we're going to see. Now I have to take a sort of slow here, so we'll see what. Alright, that's her loosened off, and 88. So there we go with the minus 88. There, if we can get you into focus. Yeah, we're getting sort of better at that, so we are, but well, still have to work on it. So, anywho, slightly less required to loosen that. What was that, 107, did I say it was? 107, and it required 88 to loosen it. So as soon as it started breaking away, well, that would have been the maximum, the peak. And you see there, it's a wee minus sign in front of it. So anyway, without labouring that, so that's why I'm not going to do the usual thing that you see in YouTube, where people tighten bolts up and then, to a specified torque, some sort of torque, and then they see if this will bust it, because it will, So it's not a valid test, and you see loads of YouTubers doing that. And I did that myself one time in a really, really early video, and I ended up tightening the bolt so much that I stripped it out, and it was a huge nut, like it was that size, and it stripped all the threads out. You couldn't tighten it up anymore, and all the tools I had just whizzed it off every time. And that's the reason. That's the reason right there. So anyway, well, real world is durability. That'll be dropped probably a couple of times. I reckon I'll be reaching for that there. Far more often than I'll be going for that. I'm not really. That really doesn't do anything that exceptional that I already have. I already have stuff will do that, ratchets, and I'm not going to stop ratcheting something out and then go and get that and put it on just to run it out the rest of the way. I just don't see the point in that. Really, it may be handy the odd time, if there's a whole load of nuts to take off and you just zip them all out, it'll save you that sort of anguish. This thing here, as I said, but in that review, because it's small, because it's going to be light use, I have more powerful tools in the 18 volt on the German tool Metabo, but I bought this specifically for later use, and it's a slightly smaller unit and all that. So that's why I only have a 3/8 on that, because I'm not going to be, if I need something bigger, if there's going to be a tight bolt, I'm not going to reach for that. It's two-way, specs wise. But this thing here, now, this is a different case and point here, because this here potentially will do things that I don't have anything else that will get in, that has just 2 inches of clearance and has an impact on it. I don't have anything else that, I can compare that to in this formation. This to me is a new thing, So that isn't, it isn't. I can't compare that to, a Metabo or an impact wrench or whatever, because this is a different ball game here entirely. That there will maybe do something that I had diffs with or struggled with before, and that'll help me out. Whereas those other two Milwaukee tools that I bought, I think they're just additional to what I already have. But this isn't additional. This is different, And it's decent, It's all right. And clearly, price point, this is far more expensive than that. That was body only, no battery, and all that malarkey. But if you sign up to these tool manufacturers, you're sort of stuck with them or whatever. I don't want to be stuck with any particular brand. I'm not a brand snob at all. But if it works, I like it. If it doesn't work, I don't like it. And that's the way it is. I couldn't care less who makes it, So, or the reputation, it has some unbelievable reputation or whatever. This, as I said before, these things are heavily marketed. You're paying for marketing. That wasn't cheap by any means. That there was not cheap. None of those were particularly cheap, in my opinion. I did show in a previous video, you can get a more powerful Metabo 18 volt, and it'll just blow that out of the water for the same price. Beg your pardon. But anywho, there we go. Yeah, we'll talk about it sometime in the future, in months and months' time. I'm not going to use this for a week and just do a couple of wee jobs and go, oh, this is great. After a year, we'll see how this holds up. No doubt, this here, because of its weight there, it isn't balanced, but it's a lot better than the hold in this thing. It's not as heavy as what you think. But no doubt, all you have to do, that's lying on the side of the bench, and you give it a wee knock, that will just drop like a brick, and we'll have to see how that stands up to abuse and stuff like that. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that wee video, and credit to Arduino versus Evil clip there. That hope he doesn't mind me borrowing. So there you go. All the best. Thanks very much for watching, and see you again. Thanks. Bye.